Hello, Sophomore Seminar. This is once again Mr. Betancourt. And today's lesson, we're going to be looking at 3.16, which is refusing and persuading. Now, as always, make sure you have your handout ready to take notes and to type in as you follow along. If you choose to listen to instructions first and then doing your own, or what you can do is also pause as we go out here, as we continue with this lesson. It's up to you. Reminder, make sure you fill out everything. Do not just write one sentence. Make sure you have it completed and make sure you use the language and the terms as being used in the lesson, so that way it gives us a clear understanding that you actually did follow directions. If not, points will be deducted. Once you're done, make sure you hit that submit button so we can go ahead and grade it to you and not deduct points for being late. So with that being said, as always, your bell ringer for today is very straightforward. It is, imagine you are getting ready to come home from an event, from a party, and your ride has been drinking. Obviously, we're talking about alcohol in this situation, and he looks like he is pretty drunk. He says he is fine to drive, but he slurs his words, so I will be kind of concerned. So please go ahead and write your answers to what would you say to refuse to ride with him or her, and then what would you say and do to persuade him or her or that driver not to drive himself home? So take a couple of minutes, respond to that. Let's go and continue. Today's questions or essential key points is how can we say no when needed, and how can we persuade others to avoid risky behavior and or to take positive action. Remember, persuading means to kind of guide a person towards an answer or kind of make them feel or change their mind to do something, which is very, you might be pretty good doing this already or you have experienced this before. So let's go and continue. The first slide talks about the war on drugs and why it didn't work out. In the 1980s, there was a campaign, and the famous catchphrase was just say no. It was used throughout the whole Reagan presidential. There was a lot of ads. I remember growing up in LA. I remember seeing a lot of these ads on TV. It's just say no. I'm pretty sure Mr. Lambola also remember those growing up. A little side note, one of my favorite one was it used to have like an egg or something like this is your brain, and then they'll crack the egg on the frying pan. They'll say this is your brain on drugs. Just say no. So I remember those. Anyways, moving on. So why do you think just say no was ineffective? Why do you think it didn't work out? So it gives you two reasons right there. You can go ahead and take a look. And remember, this is also the part where you'll be filling out notes in your worksheet. Now, the next slide talks about different steps on how to refuse. When you want to say no to something that you just don't feel comfortable doing, or you don't feel like you want to do it, here's 4 different steps of how to refuse that situation. Step number 1 is state your stand or concern firmly. Number 2, give a reason why you don't want to do it or why you're refusing to do it. Number 3, propose an alternative. Suggest something else rather than just saying no. It's like, no, why don't we rather do this, or let's go ahead and do this instead. And then if all fails, have a backup plan. Like, what will happen if everything else doesn't work? What's your backup plan to kind of step away from that? So it gives you a little it gives you a little detail into it. It gives you some examples, so you can read those, of course. Off here to the side, it says, in what situations at school, at work, and life will refusal skills be important? So remember that, especially once you get into parties or just in general. Think why some refusal skills might be important. Now, the next slide after that is steps of how to preventing risky decisions for others, respectfully persuading people. Here's some steps to that. Number 1, again, state your stand or concern firmly. Number 2, say why you're concerned about that person, or why Why do you think that's a bad idea? Number three, propose an alternative again. Like, hey, rather than drinking and driving, why don't we just go to the movies instead? And then number four, have a backup plan. And again, on to the side it says, in what situations will persuading skills be important? Here's some examples of how to be firm and firm versus vague statements. How what you say and the tone of your voice matters, and how well your refusal or persuasion skills are. So, if once you go back to the four different steps of stating your concern, say why, propose an alternative, and have a backup plan. Make sure you're always firm with it. If you're kind of vague, that leaves um, a chance of kind of not of things not working. So if you guys remember, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did one of our presentations, and there was a guy talking about a poem, and he said, "Don't say kinda, because kinda means you won't do it." For those Star Wars fans, Master Yoda said it to Luke: "Do or do not. There's no try." When you say try or kinda, that gives it a little chance for you not to do it. So always be firm. So rather than saying, "Oh, I don't think so," is no, I don't want to, you know, go out and drinking, instead of saying, "Oh well, no, I think it's a bad idea." No, it's a bad idea. You know. So there's some vague examples, and then you can come up with your own firm examples on how you can use that. So, conclusion: what we learned today is how can we say no when we need it, or when needed. I'm sorry, and how can we persuade others to avoid risky behavior and or take positive action. So, for your reflection, if you go back to your handout, again, here's where you take notes, your bell ringer. Here's those steps once again, if you guys remember. Here's the steps. Now you're going to use those steps that we learned, and I want you guys to write out what you would say in each scenario. Follow the refusal and persuasion guidelines. So there's 3 different scenarios. This will not be shared. This is just strictly going to be for us, your teachers, to read them. So make sure you hit all 4 of those: refusal and proposal, refusal and I'm sorry, persuasion guidelines. Make sure you use those terms. Make sure you're clear. We will be reading this. Make sure you put the time and effort, so that way when we go back and grade it, we can go ahead and make sure that you actually did this correctly. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to email your teachers or text us, and we're here to help you. Good luck, guys. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.